Welcome, friends, to Soul Talk Podcast, a show where you explore and uncover our path to the heart, amplifying your conscience. Join me as we meet incredible souls who are in this journey to learn from their experience and in different methods that will make you vibrate your heart. Let's get into it. Hi, everyone. This is Monica Ramirez, the Warrior of Love. And today we are not only in soul talk, we are also in zoology. And what we're going to be having today, it is a great interview with a person that actually helped me transform my life. Let me tell you a little bit about who she is. Oh Hon Jung is a spiritual guide, emotional alchemist, somatic healer, and medicine woman. She's also the host of Taoug podcast. She also guides women to embody their peace, power, and aliveness. Believe me, she do. The foundation of her teachings are based on the Taoism, energetics, and the practice of surrender, the human experience and divine flow of nature. Her experience as an acupuncturist brings holistic approach to her work, where she integrates the physical, emotional, mental, and energetics realms. Her offerings range from group programs to in-person deep dives in the VIP immersions. Oppo Hong's work devoted to the remembrance of who they were living in that place. And believe me, she have helped me tremendously in something that I was really stuck in the RIP resentment program that she have. Oh, thank you so much for accepting my invitation to be here. I really appreciate it.
It's my pleasure. I'm so happy to be here with you.
Yes. And finally having this conversation, more personal conversation, not working on myself. This is about more about you. What it took you to get to become I feel even your energy as a shaman when I was working with you and right now too. How
As
it
a shaman, you said?
shamanism it
Mm.
feels it feels that kind of energy since I met you and to this day. But what it took you to be where you are now?
Thank you for that reflection. Actually, other people have said that as well. I would say, I mean, it's been a journey because I've been through the dark night of the soul, as many healers have, right? And so many traumas as a child, depression, attempted suicide when I was younger, a lot of self-hatred and shame, the whole 9 yards, really. And so that combined with being raised by a family, my dad, my mom, and my stepfather, who were very grounded in service and healing. My dad used to be a Jesuit priest before he met my mother, and he's my spiritual teacher. He teaches Taoism, so that's where I get my foundation from. My stepfather was a grand master of martial arts as well as a Chinese medicine doctor. And my mom was a badass, just a badass. So the combination of like my own pain and suffering and trauma combined with um, what my soul came here to do and choosing this family to raise me really brought together my work. And of course, I've had other teachers along the way. But I always knew since I was a young person that I was going to do healing work. It was just an intuitive feeling. I first laid my hands on my mom when I was 8 years old, not knowing what I was doing. And so, yeah, it's my own healing, the freedom that I received in the process has inspired me to continue to be of service and share to more people because I want to inspire people, show them what's possible when we do the work, when we are committed and devoted to ourselves and our liberation. So yeah, there's a lot more in the journey, but yeah, coming out through the dark tunnel for decades and now into the light really has been a big part of my process.
I've heard many times from the spiritual community that they're love and love and light, and they just want to focus in love and light and fluffiness. But they are so afraid to do that deep shadow that we all carry. That's where we go dark night of the soul, and then we try to ignore it again, and then later on we go up again, and it just become a cycle. And they're so afraid to see their own shadow. Why this is happening to the spiritual community where we're supposed to be working with ourselves and healing those traumas, and they're so afraid of that shadow. They just want to see love and light. Why that happens in our community?
My feeling is that, I mean, it's so uncomfortable to feel. It's so uncomfortable to be a human being and to experience life, that's just across the board. That doesn't mean people are not just happy. I'm happy and joyful, but life is going to life. And so, um, to me, from my experience, if we don't allow ourselves to be with what is, then we are bypassing such an important part of ourselves. So I think that the people that you're referring to are really not wanting to feel and be in their bodies. And that's a lot of the work I do, is helping people to be in their body. There's so much that's surrounding around, like, it's the disassociation. I understand that because I was disassociated from my body for many years because of sexual trauma. And so I understand. I have so much compassion for why people bypass or avoid or numb in whatever shape or form. Because even people who are not spiritually bypassing, just people who are just regular people walking the streets, will find ways to avoid, right? And so I have deep, deep compassion for that, because it is challenging to be a human being. But the nuggets that I found is by allowing ourselves to surrender into what is, and from that place, it naturally dissolves. The pain naturally dissolves on its own. We don't need to make it happen. But a lot of people don't know that they can do that. So, yeah, my dad was the one who taught me that. He taught me surrender. And surrender to me is the ultimate healer.
One of the things that I experienced with you, that the class that actually I just had with you, was because I did not want it. I was carrying so much resentment to my mother that I was so hard to let it go and observe, because the program that we all have, all the mothers are saints, are all wonderful and loving, and they love their daughters and things like that. So it was very hard to see that shadow that it was eating me alive in a way. And when I went to your program that you have, Reap Resentment,
Rest in peace, resentment.
it was in peace. It was so transformative, because I allowed myself to actually feel it and feel that pain. And it was so releasing, that surrendering that you're talking precisely. And that's something that not everybody is willing to do. And they continue doing that. So how do I wanted to ask you, you have so many people actually that take that class, because it is painful and not everybody wants to see that shadow and admit, I have a resentment to my mother.
It's so true. I mean, like, I was actually surprised. This was my first time offering the program. I didn't know how many people would sign up, but I think that the amount that signed up is a reflection of what I felt initially, is that there are a lot of people carrying so much anger and resentment and rage in their body from childhood. And, the thing that inspires people to do the work is usually desperation, right? It's like it can be either inspiration or desperation, but usually it's desperation. And so, you hit a certain place where you're just like, I don't know what else to do, I'm stuck. And so that's a beautiful thing. We can use these moments as opportunities to really allow ourselves to surrender, because you've tried everything else, right? You try everything else. And I always like to joke saying people should come to me first, but they usually come to me last because they don't want to do the shadow work. So I always find that humorous, because it just illuminates, human nature and how we don't want to be with the rawness and the realness of what's happening inside of us. And there's so much, like the sensations that are in our bodies. There's, ways that we don't even realize that we have sensations that are in our body. A lot of times we're avoiding feeling those sensations because it's so uncomfortable. Before I started doing the work, I didn't even know I had sensations in my body. I couldn't feel anything. So I understand the whole process of it. And yeah, it was such a powerful class, actually, because I didn't know how it would turn out, but so many people, as you know, went so deep and were able to touch that spot. And it's because you were willing, like you were willing to do the work. You were willing to surrender. Yes, I created the container and, holding the space, which creates the safety there, but you did the work. And it was so powerful for me to witness you and everybody else who went through that.
That took me to the patterns. I did not even realize that I have certain patterns, auto-destructive patterns, that it was completely sabotaging my life by it. And it was like, it was so deep ingrained inside of me that just to releasing, letting go those patterns and observe, oh my God, I've been repeating this thing since I have use of memory. Since I was a little kid, and it just became worse in teenagerhood. As an adult, it's like, oh my God, I have 4 marriages. Why? Because I did not do the inner work since I was little. And going to, I'm not against healers, contrary. I I think they're so necessary in this timeline, but no one has a magic wand. No one can take that pain away with a magic wand. So we have to do the inner work. And I'm calling to those people precisely because it is so hard for them to see that inner pain. But in the way that you manage it, I imagine there is a lot of the somatic practices that you already have and the Taoism. How do you combine them in this in your practice with people? Because you take them up to a really deep dive.
Yeah, it's a combination of things. You know, I created my own modality just for my own healing practice, from me feeling into the sensations and letting that guide me. But also, the teaching of the Tao is so powerful because it really does connect us to nature and not having to force anything. And that's a big part of the work, is like a lot of times people are just trying to figure things out up here. Everything is mental, or, trying to use the mind to solve the problem. The mind is more of a tool to bring our attention on, to focus on something. But really, it's in the body that I've noticed where we get to heal, truly. I mean, of course they work together. So that's what I'm talking about when I talk about Taoism. The masculine would be the mind and the feminine would be the body, and we can allow them to work together in order to help the healing. But yeah, I guess like that, all the modality just came from my intuition, really. It's just me feeling my way through and allowing myself to explore what's happening inside of me. And I have to say, feeling is such a powerful thing. It seems like simple, but it's a big deal to feel. And I have a client who was suicidal in January when she started working with me. Literally only a couple of months, Monica, of feeling, she became non-suicidal anymore. And now 7 months later, she is starting to feel a connection to her power. And she's like, how is this even possible? And it says, because you are feeling. Like, that's how powerful feeling is. I love giving that example because people don't realize that that is medicine. And the more we allow ourselves to feel the pain that's in us, we're also expanding our capacity for the goodness, right? So we're not just doing shadow work to be in darkness, you know.
No.
We're doing it because it's expanding our capacity for all of it, to be present, to feel gratitude, to be in joy, you know, and have peace, and also be in the grief. And I have realized from my own process in guiding people that grief and love are so intertwined, and you can feel those things at the same time, and you can feel gratitude at the same time. So when you expand your capacity to feel, you can feel multiple, like, opposite ends of the spectrum at the same time. Have you ever experienced that, Monica?
I did. I actually, I did. We always have blind spots. I did not saw this one coming, but I was sick with lupus, RA, fibromyalgia, and depression. That to the point that I was already thinking how I was going to escape from this one. That and to do that, when I had to heal myself because I was just going more down and down. I was already with epilepsy, and it was like, okay, what is next? And I have to do that inner work. I heal a lot of stuff. I did a lot of the healing and the worthiness and so forth with myself. So I thought, okay, I heal myself. I haven't had 7 years of any kind of flare-ups. I'm not gonna say that I never get sad because I'm human, but not to the point that I went before. And even if I did all that work and I haven't got sick anymore at all, it's not gonna happen again. But I was still feeling okay. I feel still unworthy. And I have worked it with myself. I know how to do the deep dives. I know how to do all that. And I could not get into the root until a friend of mine told me, a beautiful friend that I love so much, Shannon is a friend of ours. She
Mm.
told me, you know what? You need to talk with Paul because you're carrying another layer. And that's the layers that we cannot see. That's our blind spots. Correct.
Yes. Yes. And that's the part that excites me, is that going to the root, you know, like, I'm also an acupuncturist, as you read in my bio. And so the foundation of acupuncture is that there's the root and then there's the branch. The branch are the symptoms, and the root is the stagnation, the trauma, whatever it is. And so I've always been trained, and just, I'm also a Scorpio, so I'm like a detective, right? So you too, of course. And so, you know, I love opening up a space so people can actually touch that spot, because if we don't, then we'll continue to be in that same pattern, as you mentioned. And so, yeah, I mean, it was so beautiful witnessing you in that journey and really allowing yourself to go there. And that, to me, shows so much power and willingness, because, you know, it's painful, and you went back so far, so far.
And I still feel that there's still layers, and that's a question that I receive very often from my clients. That it is okay. When is going to stop? When are there going to be another layer underneath? And my answer to them, I would like to hear your answer, but my answer to them, it is, I don't know. The universe continue expanding. So when is going to stop? I don't know. What is your answer for that one?
Yeah, I mean, there's, to me, there's always going to be layers, most likely, because I mean, I don't know. That's my feeling, because so far I'm 47. I keep on experiencing layers, you know? So I like to see it as an adventure. That's my mindset of how I look at life is and healing, is that it's an exploration. And so, yes, if there's another layer, instead of being like, oh, another layer, right? I'm like, oh, another layer, so we can actually bring a certain level of play into our healing work and get turned on by it, instead of it being like, oh, this is work. And so that keeps me inspired to keep doing the work, because it's not a chore. And and another thing I want to say in addition to that is that we don't need to search for the thing. So it will arise, when we allow ourselves to surrender and really relax into life. Those things are going to bubble up on their own. We don't need to dig for them. We don't need to search for them. We're activated all the time. In those moments of activations, that's the opportunity. The portal to healing is in that moment, right? So we don't actually need to dig for it. We can just be with the activation in the moment, and then it will guide us into a deeper spot if we're open to it. So we have opportunities all the time. We don't need to look for it.
If we observe it, everybody's all the time telling me, how do I get rid of the ego? And can you remove the ego? Like open my third eye and remove the ego. Like, that's, well, the ego, actually, if you observe it, is our best friend. That's what I tell them, because that's where it show you the triggers.
Mhm.
And that's where you need to, that's the map, the roadmap, where you need to work with yourself, right?
Yes, yes. And I see the same thing because, in Rest in Peace Resentment, my program, which by the way, I was inspired to continue to create another one to start in September because it was such a success. But like befriending the ego, befriending your anger, befriending your rage, befriending your grief, right? Really allowing ourselves to create a relationship with them instead of being like, oh, I'm resistant or that's bad. When we make those parts inside of us wrong or shame it or judge it, we're doing that to ourselves. We are shaming ourselves. We are judging ourselves. We are not loving on ourselves. So I always love to work with the ego. It is absolutely something that illuminates what is happening inside, what stories are happening right now, what limiting beliefs, are coming up.
Yes, that is so true, because I hear so many people is like, oh no, you have bad energy. I feel some energy that I need to stay away. And it's like, what are you really feeling? Am I being a reflection of your own self? Because how I present myself many times, it is, I trigger people. But I have to, if I to do my job, I have to trigger people, or else they're not gonna do their inner job. Correct. I believe you are one of mine, that you have to trigger people to
Yeah, I mean, naturally, just like even the journeys that I took you guys in the program, I'm I'm triggering you or activating you in a different way, right? And it's like it's eliciting that thing inside of you so that it can come up, and that's a gift. And even if it's a gift even from somebody that maybe you don't like, that maybe like you see on social media, maybe you're jealous of somebody that you see, or you're comparing or whatever, like that is a gift. That's an opportunity. And our ego's like, oh, I don't like them, or I'm jealous. And it's like, oh, what's really deeper there? What are they reflecting to you? And most likely you probably want something that they have, is my guess. I've had that experience. That's a personal experience I've had. And, that's important for me to share because as a healer and all that, I mean, that doesn't mean that we're immune to anything. And I think that people sometimes make an assumption that healers are supposed to be perfect, or I don't know, not human, or but that's not the case. We are like anybody else. I would say the thing is that I'm just more, not maybe not more, but yeah, maybe more devoted to my practice than some people. And that's the key. Like I'm devoted to the work.
Yes, because now we know when we're lying to ourselves. We know
Yes.
we're hiding things from ourselves, and that make it tough because, like, oh my God, can I have a today I can rest about me with myself?
Yeah, it's true. You just see it and you're like, oh, I have to out myself again. And because there's such a level of consciousness that's there. And so, there's only so far you can run from yourself when you are awake.
I know you do in the deep dive different in the one that is personalized VIP versus different kinds of coachings and healings and so forth.
Mhm.
That's why I also called you a shaman because I know what kind of work you do. Would you like to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So, people always ask me, like, what happens in the deep dive or the VIP? And I always say, I don't know. Because all of my work is intuitive, right? Like, even the creation of Rest in Peace Resentment, I had an idea of what I was going to do, but I had to just be in the moment and listen to my intuition. So it's the same thing, is that I never say this is exactly what's going to happen, but I I know the kind of work I do, which is I'm going to listen to your body. I'm going to listen to your energy. We're going to talk and I'm going to follow my intuition. And literally the whole day or days are weaved and unfolding naturally and organically. Because if I go into a container with a specific idea of things I'm going to do scheduled, it literally kills my intuitive spidey senses, and it doesn't allow for the things to arise, because that's the work, is like I'm creating a space so things can actually come up so that we can address it, because the subconscious, you know we have to create a safe environment for that to happen. And I've since I was young, people would like cry with me, tell me their whole life story. And so that's how I know that I was meant to do this work, because people feel safe in my presence. And so I ground myself and I listen. I'm listening deeply, listening, feeling, listening. And so anybody who's listening here, who's a healer, like,
Mm.
that's why it's so important for us to learn how to feel even more in our body, because then we get to be better in our skills and our gifts, and we pick up more because we're doing our own work with feeling and healing our own stuff. But yeah, so a few examples is like, you know healing on a somatic level basically creates space in the body, so that if you look at it like a faucet or a hose that has like old crusty stuff in it, we're basically healing the crust, the plaque I call it, or the calcification of the trauma, the emotions that are stuck in the nervous system, in the cellular membranes, in the muscle memory, in every part of your body. So we clear that and alchemize it so that there's space now to actually receive goodness, abundance, whether it's financial. I also taught about money, um, uh, financial, intimacy, sexual connection, whatever kind of goodness. If we have all that plaque filling up our body, then there's no space to receive. So a lot of the work I do is around that, but I also do work, as you know, around victim consciousness and that victim triangle of victim, rescuer, and perpetrator. And that's so powerful in conjunction with the somatic work, because it is important for people to see their patterns. It is important for people to identify what roles or boxes that they have put themselves in, what they have identified with. So it is really a blend of different things that I mean, there's so many different things that I do. So at any moment I could take something out of the witch box.
I do agree. I do agree that we have started. I feel like we all started in this kind of process because we wanted to heal ourselves. And then after we heal ourselves, oh, I can help others because we tend to be, since the ones that are at least in this path, I believe the most of it, every time I talk with them is, I don't know why people come and tell me their problems, but they do in the supermarket, whatever. And it happens to all of us. They come and tell us our problems, and we can see what it is, the initial problem. And that's where we have to do that work. And you say something very true about the book of The Secret of the Law of Attraction, or the movie, or whatever they want to, the book, or they're missing a big part of it. And that big part of it, it is, if you don't feel worthy, how you're going to receive whatever you wish for, correct?
Yes, yes. I mean, I agree with the energetic piece, but yes, this that there's that piece that they are missing. So it's not holistic. And for me, we have to look at all the different areas, like I mentioned, the physical, because it's also important, right? The physical. Are we taking care of our brain? Are we sleeping? Like the basics. Are we really taking care of our body? And then the energetic piece, and then the emotional and the mental. Like we have to have a 360-degree view in healing. It's never just one way. And so yeah, the manifestation happens when we do the somatic work, and also we use our mind to focus, and we can use visualization, as you know, and things like that, and feeling, as they call it, the future self. But it has to go in conjunction. If you don't heal and work on your trauma, like you said, in the worthiness area, then it's going to be like resistant, it won't be able to come in. Or if you are able to receive it, you won't be able to hold it. That's the difference, right? So people can receive, just like people who win lottery, they can receive millions of dollars, but then they could end up going bankrupt because they didn't expand their capacity to hold and have abundance and goodness. And so that's why we do this somatic work, is to keep increasing our capacity to hold. Because that's really the scariest thing. I think, even though people say, oh, shadow work, they're scared of that, or it makes them nervous or something like that. I honestly believe people are more scared to have goodness in their life and actually be in abundance and be in joy. And so, because that's more unknown, where we know what we're comfortable with, right? We're used to living a certain way. And so that unknown space of something even more out there in terms of our desire can be terrifying, because we don't know what that is. And the uncertainty of loss, right? Like people will say, oh, I'm afraid the shoe's going to drop. I'm going to find my love and then something bad's going to happen, right? Or I'm going to get a job that's amazing and then something bad, so our mind will play these tricks with us. So we need to do that work so that we can actually hold it.
That is so, so true. Many of us, we have it, we wish for something energetically, there it is. And then suddenly just boom, it just disappeared. And it was like, what happened? What did it wrong? Well, what you did wrong was that worthiness.
Mm-hmm. The
That I,
worthy.
in my part, I've been working for years with that worthiness until I find the root.
Yeah, it's deep, and I mean, I can't say it's everyone, but I'm gonna guess it's everyone. I don't know the numbers, but every single person that I've met has had worthiness issues, um, and I don't think that's a bad thing. I think the being a human being and accepting our humanity is part of the beauty of being a human, right? And I think a lot of times you talked about the spiritual bypassers. Like, I want to be here on earth. Like, I don't necessarily want to transcend. I can hold both. I can be on the earth and connect with the divine in the sky, right? That's the yin and the yang. It's like they work together. And so, yeah, I find this work so fascinating. There's so many different angles that we could talk about, but it really is about that balance between the yin and the yang from my perspective.
And how do you work with the body?
So, sensation is a big part of the work that I do with the body. And um, I gave this example, I think, in class where, I was triggered by an ex-lover and I went home and then I was like having all these sensations. This is the first time I discovered that I could do healing work with sensations. And I just dropped into my body to feel the sensations in my chest. And then all of a sudden the sensations went to my lower abdomen, into my sacral area. And then, because my eyes were closed, it immediately brought me to an old memory of my first rape. And I was entered into my 13-year-old self's body, looking into the eyes of my perpetrator. And at that moment, I forgave him because I saw in his eyes how hurt he was, and that saying of how hurt people hurt people. And it wasn't that I tried to forgive him in that moment. It just was a natural process. I didn't try to do any of these things. It was natural. It just flowed like magic in a way. And I came out of that feeling so light and being able to release that experience and really, like I said, forgive him. And I saw how I was actually making the person, the lover in the current day, the perpetrator. And so that's how we can use these activations to go deeper. So that was like my first moment of seeing, oh, wow, this is, the body is powerful. There's so much here. And I had already been doing acupuncture, but I think what I didn't realize was that there's a lot of magic inside. I see sensations kind of like fairies or time capsules, or like they can take you places. They hold memories and emotions and a lot of power and healing. So that's my entry point, is through sensations. But also, body movement too, but in terms of like the deeper healing, as you know, because I guided you through that, through the sensation. But yeah, I think it's a under utilized tool that people don't realize. It's very mystical, honestly.
Because at the same time, it is many people are so afraid. Even if I have already cried out, even if I already do the healing for years so I can heal myself, even if I did that, it was like, why? It's like, okay, I don't have nothing physical. I'm fine. I don't take medications. I'm doing great. After being 15 years with all this sickness and just getting worse. But it's like, why can I not attract money? Why cannot attract love? Why is these things? And it's like, oh, it's the worthiness. It is here. Okay, what do I do with it? How do I heal that? So
I'm
yeah,
so curious about what's going to happen for you, as since now you touched this mother wound, the deep, this really root piece. I'm curious if when you start working with it even more, how that's going to shift those areas.
yes, me too. I'm curious. Like finally, the thing because things arrive, but they boom disappear. So I
Hmm.
was like, okay, now something is actually gonna land and stay. It is actually, I'm gonna have more clients. I'm gonna help more people because at the end, we are all here because we have a purpose in life. And many of us, light workers, star seeds, healers, whatever you want to call us, we are here because we want to help. Our heart is in there, but at the same time, we are wounded. That's where it comes the wounded healer
Yes.
part. And that's the part that it is so hard sometimes to ask help.
Oh, that's so key. Yeah, I always ask for help. It's so important. If we don't ask for help, I mean, we can't heal alone. I do a lot of healing work on my own because naturally I am by myself, and I'll be activated, and so then I get to have that opportunity to heal. But if I did not have community or healing communities or friends that I could lean on to ask for support, I honestly don't know what I would do. We it's like a bomb, BALM. It's like a bomb. We need that in order to thrive. Like touch, is so important. And this, I consider my work heart medicine in a lot of ways. My name Pohung means big red. And so um, that's where I'm very connected to this medicine. And so part of what I feel when I think about heart medicine is connection, right? Connection. And being a healer doesn't mean that I'm here just to help and serve you. I'm also here to receive. It goes both ways, the yin and the yang again, right? Giving and receiving. And so, yeah, I can't imagine what it would be like, if what my healing path would have looked like if I did it by myself. It would have been very, very hard for me.
That it is so true. And you touch a point that I would like to talk about it. It is, look, the search for the soul family, like searching, like we know we don't belong here. Maybe we don't. As a light worker, I can say we don't belong here. We just came to do a job, and after we finish with the job with ourselves and whatever, and healing ourselves, hopefully we can go back home. But in the time we're here, or it can be eons, who knows, that we're here in this planet, that search for that soul family, it becomes harder and harder and harder. For many, every time I hear light workers or star zero healers, finding that community that you're talking about, it is so difficult
Why do
because
you think so?
what I have encountered in my, I'm gonna be 54. What I have encountered since I started going into this path and doing the change, many more people have left.
Mm,
Many is, and they leave and they leave and they leave more people. And sometimes it is painful, there's like, okay, I finally have someone to share all this. Hey, I'm working with this, or I find this, or I saw a dragon, or things like that. And then suddenly again you change friends, and then it comes another one. It's like, oh, finally I have sisters and things like that. And then again another change. And this experience for me is not only being for me, it is to many people I talk with. Or yes, you have beautiful soul family in New Zealand when you're in Texas, or things like that, and
mhm,
they're far away. And that's what it becomes also at the same time harder,
mm.
because it was like, yes, I have my coach, I have this coach for this and this coach for that, but I'm talking about soul family that I don't have to pay to help me.
Well, I think, I guess I feel a little bit differently, because I I have been able to find a soul family. And I understand what you're saying in terms of like the more you heal, certain people will fall off that are no longer aligned with you, right? And that's a good thing. Just the natural energetics, there's not that match anymore. And when you do go, I guess, go forward in the healing process, then it could be that maybe the soul family gets smaller, perhaps. But my experience, the more that I have done my healing work around, especially the victim consciousness work, then I have been able to attract it because I'm open to it. I realized I was avoidant to community before because I didn't feel worthy and I felt afraid of letting people in to that place. So I don't know. I've had a different experience. I because for me it's so important, and I want to just keep allowing myself to receive in that way, And so I think it's possible still. I think it's. I'm also curious about how your mother wound work will impact that because what I've noticed is the more that I heal on a somatic level around those abandonment wounds that I've had, then the more I'm able to have those kind of soul family people
Hmm.
in person in my city.
Yes. Oh, you live in Miami. It's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, yeah, it is. But you could be in a big city still and still not and be alone, right? And I did that for many years because I was depressed and was afraid of connection and was afraid of vulnerability and intimacy. That's also part of the work I do is with intimacy. It's because I was afraid of it. But then I got to a point of being able to allow people in, ask for help, right? Because I've always been this strong, independent woman. And so that was really terrifying for me to actually say, I need somebody, right? Not just I want, I need. I think that's the shift, honestly. Like, as we're talking about this, that's what allowed me to receive soul family, is because I admitted to myself, I need them. Not that something, just something I want. Because then I'm like, oh, in order for me to really feel deeply nourished in my life, I don't want to lie to myself anymore and say, oh, I don't need them. Because that's what I used to do, like, oh, I'm fine on my own. I'm strong. I'm independent. I'm doing my thing. But really, underneath it, my inner child was like, no, I need, I need them. So I think that was a big shift for me, was admitting that to myself, because that's so vulnerable to say,
Yeah.
right? Just like now, where I'm at with a relationship, a romantic relationship, I just got to that point. It- I need a partner. Ooh, that's so uncomfortable to say, right? I'm like,
Yeah.
I before it would just be like, oh, I really want a partnership and da 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 da. But no, now I'm at a place of openness and honesty at that level, because the abandonment work that I've done for myself, I can actually say that. And it's not a bad thing.
I can feel already there are going to be many changes in me because yes, I have those two. Saying I need, it is a tough word to say. I need a partner. I need soul family. I need this, and just saying, oh, I need help. It is hard to admit it. So I can see that those are I'm gonna sit down with those, and I'm gonna be doing that work that
Yeah, it's
I'm really admitting that I need that.
Yeah, because it's so important to honor our needs, right? And the more that we don't, we're creating walls
Mm.
around ourselves, some kind of veils, or, blockage or resistance to letting it in. And even like in a relationship, my most recent one that I had was the first time that I actually was able to fully express things that I needed on a nuanced level. I could always say what I needed on a bigger level, but like the little things, it was so uncomfortable, but it also was so empowering, because I was honoring myself and what I needed. And, I saw that in the past relationships, I wouldn't do that because I was afraid of rejection, or I was afraid to ask for the thing. And I didn't want to stir the pot. And then what happens then is resentment builds, because you didn't ask for what you need. I didn't give them opportunity to actually give me what I needed. And so it's like kind of like a subtle, tricky way of sabotaging, in a sense, right?
Yeah,
Like, oh, I'm going to just like preemptively not allow this to happen or work.
I totally agree with that. I teach a class about it was about seeing the red flags and asking for what you need. If you see those, don't start, because later on it is your own fault because you did not say, you know what, I do want flowers. Why I used to say I did not want flowers. I do want flowers. I do want a romantic dinner. It doesn't have to be in the five-star restaurant. It can be outside in the porch. But I do want the whole thing. But before, because afraid of they're not gonna accept me, they're gonna reject me and all those kind of things, I did not ask. I did not ask. Like, yeah, I can do not asking. For marriage later, I can tell you, no, I want the whole thing.
Oh wow. Number 5 is going to be the charm. Yeah. It's very vulnerable. It's very vulnerable. And that's where our power is. I really believe that.
Yes, because it's so true. Please, Paul, tell us a little bit about the program that you're going to have very soon, because I saw the emails. It's like, she's having it again. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so rest in peace, resentment. I made it 2 months because the one that you were in was just 3 weeks. And I was like, wow, they went so deep in just 3 classes. I didn't expect that. And so I was like, oh, let me make it longer so I can add more parts to it, like what came up for the group, which was the throat and the voice being stuck. So it's going to be more around also adding activation of the voice. Talking about teaching around the rescuer and people pleaser, the codependency, because I notice people who have repressed anger and rage, they have stuck energy here because they've been holding it in. And so this is blocked and there's tightness and they have a harder time using their voice. Like I said, asking for what they need, saying no or saying yes. Also going to go deeper into the desire that lives under the resentment, because under every resentment is a desire, which can be very uncomfortable, right? Which is usually some kind of connection, I would say. And so, yeah, the anger alchemy modality that I created on the fly intuitively as I created the program really is based in yin energy, because a lot of times that I would do anger before, or was taught anger was just to like rage really loud, scream and punch, which was really powerful for me because it helped me to acknowledge and give me permission to be in my anger, because a lot of women have repressed it because it's like they're taught that it's not okay to be angry and definitely don't want to express it, right? And so so I would like let it out in a big way, but what I realized that it wasn't taking me deeper, and I wanted to take people deeper. So the modality, the anger alchemy modality that I created is yin based, which is all about surrender and softening and intuition and receptivity. And it doesn't have to be big. It could be actually very quiet and still. It doesn't have to look any way in order for it to alchemize. And so I felt like that was such a powerful thing that I learned by teaching the class, because I thought I was gonna, when I entered into the class, I thought I was gonna have you guys do like a big old rage fest. But then I realized, oh no, what they need is to soften into it. And so I'm really excited about that because it makes it more approachable. It allows people to go deeper and to really go to the root, of the cause. And that's really what I'm all about. So I'm excited about it. It's going to be 2 months and it starts September 10th. And I have an early bird special. It ends Friday on the 25th. And yeah, I was called to do this work. Like it just, like literally people were like talking to me about anger, telling me how the working with me with anger was so powerful. It was just like literally everywhere in my field. And I said, oh, I guess I need to teach about anger. I never thought that was going to be my path. But the universe is so funny. You just never know. And the reason why is because I was so angry. I had so much rage, as a teenager, and then I repressed it because it scared me, and then it would come out in relationships when I get triggered. So I've always had rage in my body, and I want to give people, and especially women, permission to acknowledge, feel, and heal their anger, because it causes depression, chronic illnesses, insomnia, physical issues like fibroids. Like literally it impacts us in such harmful ways. And yeah, there's just so much possible when we allow ourselves to go into this space of anger and actually heal it from the root.
I totally agree with you, and I am so excited. I hope I can go to the next one, because I still, everybody still, there's layers over layers and over layers. Even if you would say, okay, I did this one, you find, oh, I just saw a new layer that I have to work on it. Like we just talk about one that I have to sit down with that one, because it is so true. There's always layers, and the process, I don't know where it's going to end, but every time it feels free, more free and more free.
I see your face today, and I don't know if it's because of the class, but you have a glow that I see. Have you noticed that as well?
Yes, and I feel like I have give myself permission to cry. And before it was like, don't cry, don't cry, don't express it. Go and take weeds out of the grass, and whatever to let it out. But do not give me permission to feel it, because that will lower my vibration and this and that. It was a bunch of mumbo jumbo that I had in my head.
Mm.
Why I should not express it. And so it did a big shift on me.
Yeah, I see it in your face. Like there is a new brightness in your eyes.
Yes. Thank you.
Mhm. You're welcome.
And to everybody, I just wanted to remind you that we're going to have Soul Fest. We're going to have a Soft Soul Fest this weekend on the 20th in Corpus Christi. And I'm going to be there with Tom Medina and everybody else. And also in the Soul Fest, the big festival is going to be in December in Houston. That is going to be in December 8, 9, and 10. So I'm going to be there too. So accompany us. It is going to be great. I'm so excited. I've been following them for a long time, and I can see how it's been becoming bigger and bigger and bigger. And this is going to be a great, amazing for everybody. So don't miss it. And the 20 from 4 to 8 is going to be in Corpus Christi this next Sunday. Thank you so much. Thank you, Paul. Thank you for being here. And I really, really appreciate you. Thank you for helping me so much.
It's been an honor. Thank you so much.
Thank you for all the viewers for being here. I really appreciate you. And hopefully I see you this Sunday in Corpus Christi.